one she-camel killed on the wrong grazing land. 40 years of tribal bloodshed between kin. The Basus War is the most famous feud in Arab memory, and the forces that kept it burning far outlasted the insult that lit the flame. This conflict belongs to the Ayyam al-Arab, the days of the Arabs, a collection of battle stories passed down through centuries of oral performance, classical poetry, and medieval chronicles. Long before these accounts were committed to ink, they lived in the voices of desert storytellers. The setting is the late pre-Islamic era, a world dominated by two powerful, related rival tribes, the Taghlib and the Bakr. Without a central state to enforce laws, these nomadic kin groups relied on a strict social code. Survival depended on tribal protection, where personal honor, or IRD, was bound to the collective. An offense against one member was an offense against the lineage. Under this system, maintaining respect demanded blood revenge, known as thr, turning any unresolved insult into a potential war. The fragile peace broke when a she-camel named Sarab, belonging to a Bakr woman named Basus, strayed across the boundary of a protected grazing land, the Haima. The hot-tempered Taghlib chieftain, Taghlib ibn Rabia, viewed this trespass as a direct challenge to his authority. He drew his bow and killed the animal on the spot. Basus discovered the carcass and delivered a public lament, framing the physical loss of her animal as a devastating insult to her family's honor and protection. Her cry for justice reached her nephew, Basus ibn Murrah, a chief of the Bakr tribe. Bound by kinship to avenge his aunt's humiliation, Basus tracked Taghlib into the desert and assassinated him. With Taghlib's blood spilled on the sand, a private grievance over grazing rights turned into an existential crisis of tribal war. The assassination of the Taghlib chieftain pulled both tribal confederations into a collective struggle that quickly expanded beyond the original participants. Under the desert code of Thar, Taghlib's blood could not be settled with wealth. Only the lives of Bakr's nobility could balance the debt. Traditional accounts record that this feud persisted for roughly 40 years, with historical memory placing the conflict between approximately 494 CE and 534 CE. With every retaliatory raid, each answered injury created a fresh debt of honor. This mechanism made reconciliation progressively more difficult, as the duty of vengeance passed from fathers to sons. What began as a dispute over a single animal became a generational war of attrition. The conflict no longer belonged to those who witnessed its beginning. Instead, it grew into a self-perpetuating cycle where both sides were bound to continue a struggle that threatened to deplete their entire lineages. While the battlefield claimed hundreds of lives, the war was defined as much by spoken words as by the sword. Taghlib's brother, Adi ibn Rabia, remembered as Al-Muhalhel, or Abu Layla, became the voice of unyielding vengeance. Rather than accepting blood money, he composed elegiac verses that turned private grief into a collective battle cry, demanding that the Taghlib fight until the enemy was destroyed. This poetry transformed mourning into mobilization, ensuring the conflict remained alive in the hearts of his people. But others tried to draw boundaries. Al-Harith ibn Ubad, a respected Bakr chieftain, actively worked to limit the bloodshed, refusing to join a war sparked by a camel. He kept his clan out of the initial battles, arguing that honor could be preserved without destroying entire lineages, proving that restraint existed even within a deadly feud. In the stateless expanse of the late 5th century Najd, survival depended entirely on the solidarity of the kin group. The tribe was an individual's only shield against a harsh environment, and its collective standing was tied directly to its herds. Camels provided mobility, sustenance, and the ultimate measure of wealth and prestige. In this desert economy, a family's visible standing and honor, or IRD, were bound to these animals. To strike a person's camel was to threaten their survival and challenge the tribe's capability to protect its own, making violence an inevitable response. In a world without central courts, justice relied entirely on kinship, retaliation, and negotiated honor. An offense left unanswered destroyed a tribe's standing, making violence the primary tool of legal correction. Public verse operated as the court of public opinion, weaponizing reputation to pressure families into action. Through these social mechanisms, the Basus War evolved from a physical conflict into a foundational narrative. The feud endured for centuries across the Arab world, preserved in proverbs, oral recitations, theatrical plays, and classical history. It remains a stark, remembered warning of how easily peace fractures when honor is the only law. Today, the line between peace and ruin remains paper-thin. When pride overrides reason, any spark can ignite a generational fire. What sparks are we ignoring today?